during the Protestant Reformation, things got really messy. The thing is you had so many people running around selling indulgences, bringing people into bondage, bringing them into idolatry, speaking against the truth, and speaking nonsense, that people had had enough. And, Luther started speaking pretty boldly. And at first it just looked like, well, who's this guy? What a mess he's making. But eventually people started to realize, yeah, we've been taught nonsense. They've been feeding us garbage. And it gets messy as people come out from a system of error, okay? But don't be afraid of the mess. God is, again, I've said this many times, Jesus is not ashamed to call us brothers. He is not looking for a neat outward facade, okay? It's actually as people come out of the system of errors through the proclamation of the truth that people get saved, okay? Because the gospel gets recovered and clarified and is no longer associated with embarrassing misrepresentations, and people go, oh, yeah, the reason I wasn't coming was because you guys were involved in that, and I knew that couldn't be right. So it was actually discrediting your message. And so the mess at first looks like a mess, but eventually it's a tidal wave of truth. And some people are timid because they don't want to make a mess, and they don't want to be divisive, and they don't want to stir it up, and they, because a lot of people, when this is happening, will say, well, you don't even look like Christians anymore. What kind of representation is this to the world? No, the world needs to hear the truth of the gospel. And it needs to be boldly proclaimed against a backdrop of error. The backdrop of error is already there, and we need to distinguish the truth from it so that people can be set free on one hand and saved on the other. Do not be afraid to speak. And, when Luther they were going back and forth with the papists, writing back and forth and saying, well, this guy said this now that's absurd. This idea that, well, just don't respond, just ignore it. Just don't even feed into it. No, if they're going to keep going and their stupidity is going to get more and more ridiculous, then let the truth be that much more bold, and let God's word again be a hammer. Okay, just speak the truth as the Spirit leads. And of course we speak the truth, and we try not to get the flesh. But even Luther, he used his humor to crash through people's concepts sometimes and said even crude things. Do not use your liberty as a cloak for the flesh, but at the same time, you're free to speak the truth as you see fit